All right, family, we are back for part 2 of the anniversary dinner video. Our first date was at Outback Steakhouse, and we typically try to eat there every year, either on our anniversary or on the anniversary of our first date. But this year it's a little bit snowy out, so I'm going to try my hand at making the Outback bread. Now I will show you I'll put this up so you guys can get the recipe. I'm cutting it in half, but I will put the full recipe up for you. I'm using my bread machine. A lot of people just knead, but I don't. So in your bread machine, if you're using like outside recipes, not out of your Bread Man recipe book, you want to make sure that you put all of your wet ingredients in first, then your dry, then you end it with the yeast well. Okay, so it calls for 2.5 cups of warm water. I've got a 1.75 cups, so that's going in. It calls for 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. I have 1/8 cup, so that's going in. And it calls for 1/3 cup of molasses. I have half of that. So that is going in. I don't know what that is. Is that 1/6? I don't know. I don't know, y'all. I'm not a mather. I don't math well. But I'm going to get all of that yummy goodness in there. Okay. Then it calls for 2 tablespoons of honey. I just have 1. So that is going in. And you don't have to stir, you don't have to mix, it does it for you. Of course, I might just stir a little bit of this up because this is honey and molasses. I'm going to stir a little bit of that up. Okay. Then it calls for 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar. I have 1. It calls for 1.5 tablespoons of cocoa powder. A teaspoon and a half of cocoa powder. I have 1 3/4. And then it calls for a teaspoon of salt. I have half of a teaspoon of salt. That's what's in here. So I'm just going to dump that right on in. Just dump her on in there. And because it's cocoa, I am going to mix it a little bit. But most often, like if it's just oil and egg and stuff, you do not have to mix it. But again, we've already established your girl has trust issues. Okay. So next, I am going in with, it calls for 2.5 to 3 cups of whole wheat flour. I have 1.5 cups of whole wheat, and I'm going to just put on the top. And then it calls for 2.5 to 3 cups of bread flour. I have 1.5 cups. And then I'm going to end it with my active yeast. It calls for 2.5 teaspoons of active yeast. I'm just going to put in 2 teaspoons, or 1.25 teaspoons probably. I forgot to make my little well. All right. Now, go in. This is 1/2 teaspoon measure. So I'm going to put in 4 of the, no, that's what, 1 teaspoon, 1.5 teaspoons, and then I'm just going to put a little bit more. All right, I'm going to let my bread machine do its thing. I'm going to get this started, let it do a couple of turns, and then I will check it to make sure that it's pulling everything off of the sides. I do not think that I will need any more water in this. I think what I have is sufficient. And I'm going to keep doing this just to make sure. If I have to add water, I will let you guys know. All right, guys, it is ready to be pulled out of the bread pan. And this is the part where I really don't know much about what I'm doing. But what I want to do is just coat my little bread bowl. And I'm going to take, I just need to get a proper utensil for this, some oats, and just sprinkle it and coat the bottom with it. Some use like corn flour, not, you know what I mean, like the cornbread type stuff. But I don't want to do that because I don't really like the texture on that. So I'm just doing it with oats. And I'm going to punch this down. This wheat flour is super finicky. It's interesting. It's very interesting. And I'm thinking maybe I should have used a little bit more cocoa and molasses maybe to get the darker color. This is very sticky. Very sticky. But I'm going to transfer it. Yeah, it's real sticky, y'all. I did end up having to put maybe about a quarter of a cup more wheat flour and a few tablespoons of all-purpose to kind of thicken it up. It started to thicken up pretty good, and then it just it got real sticky. This is real finicky, interesting stuff here. So what I'm going to do is wash my hands because I have texture issues. And I don't like feeling that. I probably should have put flour on my hands before I did that, but you know, it is what it is. But I'm going to cover this up. Let me dry my hands really quickly. I'm going to cover this up and let it rise one more time. I'll probably cover it for about 30 more minutes, or at least until it gets double. I'm going to push it back here where that vent is on the stove underneath that light so it can be in some warmth. All right, I'll bring you back. All right, guys, it has risen again. So what I am going to do is, let me rinse these off, get them nice and clean. I'm going to cut a little design in it. We'll see how well that works out. Just do it right there and right there. A little bit longer. All right, now I feel like I need, this is what I want to do. I feel like I need something on top to bind this. So I've got some butter spray. And I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of the oats on top. All right. Now I'm going to put this in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes. I'm going to check it at the 15-minute mark. And then I'll see where I need to go. While I'm waiting for the bread to bake, I am going to start on making a sourdough starter. I've never done this before, but I love sourdough bread. And I've been watching folks do this. So what you are going to need is any kind. I might make two starters. I might make a wheat and an all-purpose. But what you're going to need is to make sure your flour is unbleached. So I have the unbleached all-purpose flour, because if you use just the regular bleached, it has already killed all of the yeast that is in it. So all you are going to need, I don't think I'm going to use that. Let me get what I need. Okay, all you're going to need is 1/4 of a cup of unbleached flour. I'll pack that pretty good. All right. That in my little jar. And as I was watching, it's best if you can get a jar that's a wide mouth. That way you can scoop out the discard easier instead of pouring it and getting it everywhere. You can just take a little measuring cup and scoop it in there. So I found this at Dollar General, and it was originally $5, and I think I got it for like $2. It's really, really cute. Queso, not the dip. Okay, so then you are going to add, it's equal parts, 1/4 of a cup of filtered water. You don't want any chlorine from your tap water. And I do have a Brita filter, but I've also got a bunch of bottled water that I need to use up as well. So I'm just going to equal parts that. And I'm going to stir this up just like that. Get it nice and mixed up really good. I bet that I could actually even do a bigger starter than this. Let me do 1/2 cup. We're going to do that instead of 1/4, because that jar is also really big. Just bear with me trying to get a spoon. Okay. So I'm going to do 1/2 cup of unbleached flour, and then I'm also going to do 1/2 cup of filtered water. So I'm just going to put another 1/4 in here. A little bit more. All right. Get that in there. Yeah, I just picked too big of a jar. Because it wasn't even hardly at the bottom. Now, because I'm so new to this, I don't know if you're even supposed to do it in a 1/2 cup. I just know that it's equal parts. However you slice it, it's equal parts. All right. So, get that stirred up. All right, now what you're going to do is make sure that you've got it stirred up really good. Show you. Make sure it stirs up really, really good. And for me, because I have ADHD, I'm going to have to set my phone every day for the same time to make sure I remember to feed it. All right, so I am going to cover it with a coffee filter so I can get just a little bit of air in it. But you want to stir it up real good so it can get that air going also. I do not have a rubber band that is big enough to put around this, so I'm going to do my best and try and tie it around the coffee filter to keep the coffee filter in place. Here are my chickens out there. They're talking. I got 4 eggs today. I know earlier in the video you only saw 2. But I ended up getting 4 of them. So what I don't know is if I have one hen that's just not laying, or if I have hens that are laying every other day. Because I'm averaging about 4. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to take a towel and you're going to wrap it around it and you're going to store it in a dark place, okay? All right. Just like that. And I am going to put it in the back of my cabinet. I'll try to get this one up here. I'm just going to raise it. Put it right in there. And then I will bring you guys back tomorrow and we'll take a look at it. So at this point, I did not have my microphone on, so I'm just going to do a voiceover. All I'm doing is preparing the pan for the potatoes. So I just put a little bit of oil in the pan. I've got it on about medium heat, and I'm starting to dice up the potatoes. My husband loves his fried potatoes diced. I don't like it like that so much. I'm more of a medallion type of potato person, but he is so incredibly good to me. I am blessed to have him, and if he wants his potatoes diced for fried potatoes, he's going to get his potatoes diced. And that's just me doing that because I want to honor him and love him. He literally gives me most anything that I ask for. And the reason I say most is because I'm still waiting on the donkey and the goats. But he says that I'm going to have a farm for that. And it'll happen. That's hashtag goals. It'll happen. So right now I'm just taking some of the potatoes and frying them up. I did not put all of them in there because he likes his potatoes crispy. And here in a few seconds, you'll see me look at my mic and turn it on. But I'm putting minced onion in, and then I am also putting in some of the Trader Joe's garlic salt. And so right about now, you should see me turn my mic on. I have not had my microphone this whole time. That's all right, though. I'm just putting some minced onion, some garlic salt, and some nature seasons in here. That's all I'm doing. Y'all could see the rest. All right. Now let me get a little spatula and stir these up. I'll get these cooked up and I'll be right back. All right, y'all, the bread is done. Look how perfect that is. It's beautiful.